Hello and welcome to a very, very special Iconicon event. It's my absolute pleasure to be sitting down today with someone who I've actually, Bob, did you realize it's 10 years ago this month that we first met in person?
10 years this month,
it was, yes. But I'm sitting down today with a legend of the British toy industry, a toy designer who worked at Palitoy. He was on the Action Man line for 17 of the 18 years it was in existence. He's the designer of the Robo Skull from Action Force, the Kraken, and just countless other amazing British toys. It's my absolute honor to introduce Bob Brechin. Bob, how are you today?
I'm great there, Tony. Yeah, I'm great. Just been on a nice walking tour in north of here, up in the Derbyshire Peak District.
Very nice, very nice. Keeping up your fitness for your walking football.
Well, I've given that a bit of a knock on the head at the moment because I've got a groin strain, but I didn't want to go back before I went walking. You know, I wanted to repair, and so I might go back in a week. You know, perhaps a week or two.
Nice, nice. Just quickly going to bring up a chat here from Jody. Thank you very much for the super chat. He says some extra love for the final day of Iconicon. Much appreciated, Jody. So, Bob, we have obviously known each other we've actually known each other a little bit more than 10 years because we were in email communication. And I spent quite a long time with you in Colville in 2011, interviewing you at length about particularly the Action Man toy line. And that is really what you kind of worked on through the 60s and the 70s. But with this being a 1980s convention and the fact that I never really interviewed you for Action Force, I really want to discuss with you over the next kind of hour and a half, the work that you did in Palitoy from kind of 1980 to 1984. And a vast majority of my audience are interested in Action Force. So I don't know where you would like to begin. Maybe give us a bit of an insight into kind of where Palitoy was and what it was doing at the turn of the decade.
Well, yeah, because Action Man was this sort of flagship product of Palitoy, really. Started in 66 when we got the license from Hasbro to do G.I. Joe, but we called it Action Man. And I joined in 67. And I got onto all that explorer stuff, you know, adventure and exploration.
Yeah.
So that was the first sort of major outfits I was designing. And then I got onto things like the Scorpion tank. So I designed that. And then we got onto other things like the 105mm light gun. We actually got both those out before the British Army did, by the way.
A claim to fame there, Bob.
Yeah, they were very helpful. The Scorpion tank was Alvis. We went down there and got drawings and photographs to do that. And I saw the 105mm gun in the national press. So I rang up the Royal Arsenal down in Woolwich in London and said, "Can we do your 105mm gun for Action Man?" Of course, Action Man was quite well known by then, and a lot of regiments were sort of knocking on the door for their outfits to be done. And the Royal Arsenal said, "Come down and do it." So that was given over to Ivor Edmonds, who was a designer with me at the time. He did most of the work on that. But Action Man was very popular. He got a 10-year award in 1976 for its 10 years of longevity. And then in the 1980, of course, going on to the period you want to talk about, it got the Toy of the Decade, so the Toy of the 70s.
Yes, yeah.
But at that period, of course, Star Wars came out, didn't it? The film came out in 77, and Kenner started designing the stuff up to 78, and they brought out that what do you call it? Nothing in the box.
The early bird certificate package.
The early bird thing, yeah.
Yeah, the empty cardboard envelope.
Yeah, the cardboard envelope. Of course, we got the license being a sister company of Kenner. as part of the General Mills Toy Group, we got the license to distribute in this country. So we did some work on Star Wars in '78. We did the card Death Star, which I think is very popular with people, isn't it?
Very much so. Very much so. Did you?
And we did,
what was your involvement in that?
What was my involvement?
Yeah.
Well, it was an idea that came from the advertising agency in London. They were the agency that 20th Century Fox went through to get things approved in this country. They came out with a sort of rough mock-up of this thing, but it wasn't. You couldn't make it really, so we had to redesign it and added bits to it. Really, we added the. I think we added the trash compactor. We added the little slide thing. You know, we put your figure through and it falls into the trash compactor.
Yeah.
We put a central column in with a mirror at the bottom, so you could look like it went on forever. We put a cannon on the top. We pinched a couple of cannons off the X-wing fighter for that. So we put some. When we did the artwork, we asked for stormtroopers to be put on the artwork of the walls. So if the child had a few figures, but he didn't have many stormtroopers, there was plenty of stormtroopers running around, you know.
Yeah.
So, and the corridor on the top, it was completely unworkable. So we had to redesign that to make it simple, because the child, after all, had to put this together from a flat card, as you know. So we had to make, and Brian Turner worked a lot on this. Now, Brian Turner was originally the display manager, so he was in charge of displaying toys at the toy fairs. But he came on to design in the latter years, and he had the job to design most of the Death Star. So he designed the clips, which were very important to hold the thing together. So that's how the Death Star came about. So I was involved as sort of a managerial part of it with input on design, you know. But Brian did most of the work, and the original idea came from outside. So that's basically the Death Star. But we did other things, like we redesigned some of the play sets, like the Cantina. So whereas the American Kenner version was all plastic, ours was vacuum forming and mostly card. So that's basically what we did on Star Wars. But after that, when it goes into the 80s, it was all Kenner development. And Palitoy,
you're just importing stuff and putting it onto a Palitoy box or a card.
We just became distributors, and then of course in '81 the whole of the management team at Palitoy, Bob Simpson was managing director, and various other directors, and virtually the whole of the marketing department all up and went, because they could see that not Kenner, but the toy group, which was Kenner, Parker Brothers, Palitoy in UK, Miro Mercado in France, and so on, that the toy group wanted to go into global branding. So all products were going to be designed in the States, and the companies in Europe were just distributors, right?
Yeah.
So all the management in Palitoy left, and we had a new management team come in. But before they left, Action Man was having a bit of a tough time because of Star Wars. I could show you something here, because Greg Hughes, you've spoken to Greg Hughes, haven't you? And
I speak to him often on email, yeah.
Well, he came up with the Space Rangers.
Yep.
So that was a way of sort of counteracting the effects that Star Wars had on Action Man. So Greg left, and I carried on his styling. So I designed I think you got one on your desk, haven't you?
I do, and I've got another camera set up, and we might just put that close up there. So I've got the Space Ranger Commando there.
Oh, you've got the special team there, haven't you?
Yes, I've got the missile assault, which actually,
I designed after Greg had left. I designed that because I followed his designing on special team, because he did the ground assault and the underwater assault. So Greg had left, so I got back in designing more rather than managing. So, but I thought I'll carry on his sort of styling. So missile assault on your desk I did, which I think you got from me, didn't you?
I did, and that makes it extra special to me, the fact that it came from the Bob Brechin collection. So
yeah, it did. So I got this one as well, Tony.
Very nice.
Which is the Space Ranger Commando. So that's what happened to Action Man. You know, eventually it disappeared. It went back to Hasbro basically.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want they wanted to pursue their global branding of American products, and Action Man wasn't. Well, it was a competitor, wasn't it? It was GI. It was Hasbro.
Yeah.
So they wanted to give it back to Hasbro. So we tried to save it, and we came up with some new designs and everything, but they wouldn't pay. They wouldn't give us the money for the developments and the tooling. So Action Man went, but before it went, and before the old management team of Palitoy left in '81, they thought, one of the marketing guys thought, we ought to do Action Man in the same scale as Star Wars. So that's what we did. And German Stormtrooper. And
is that, am I correct in thinking that that's a prototype you're holding there?
That is a prototype. That's made of resin. So what happened was I did some drawings, which I think I've got somewhere. Can't find them. I did some drawings, and I got hold of a sculptor in London, and I gave him these drawings and said, look, and photographs of Action Man, of course. I said, we want to do miniature Action Men. So, sculptors up a few. So that's how we started.
Yeah.
There's another.
Oh, the Commando, yes.
And this guy, don't you?
I've got quite a few of those, Bob. They might have come from you as well. So what's that one there?
That's just to sit in SAS. He's relaxing.
Yeah, but I was asking, is it a resin prototype or?
No, that one's resin, and that one's made of metal.
Oh wow!
Now they all came out the same mold. So what happened?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of your people know how it's done, but it's written as a frogman. They're originally sculpted in wax, and then you take silicon rubber molds off, and then you put the mold back together, and then you can pour in resin into the molds. So that figure would have a body mold, two arm molds, a head mold, two leg molds.
Very nice.
You pour the resin in, take them out, and then you have to clean them up, and then assemble the figure and decorate it. So,
if you don't mind, Bob, we'll just take a moment to catch. We've got a few questions from the audience here. Yep. So, Jodie's asking a question on behalf of Dusty Toys. Dusty Toys is a young boy who started a YouTube channel. I think I shared a video with you where I sent him a birthday message.
Oh, yeah, Dusty. Hi, Dusty.
Yes. And he's asking, Bob, what's your favorite toy that you've ever designed? The Robo Skull. I knew it. I'm sure we're going to get on and talking about the Robo Skull in a bit. We've got a few more questions here. I'll just quickly pull up. We've got. Question, excuse me, Resolute 123. This is a guy, he's a friend of mine. He's a veteran and he does a lot of like the comic artwork. So I don't know if you've seen the logo of me kind of dressed up like an Action Force figure. He designed this artwork and he says, sorry, Tony, I just woke up and late to the party. But to Bob, thank you for bringing joy to children around the world. They, like Tony, are your legacy.
Well, yeah, but it's a team effort at Palitoy. It's a team of designers and a team of marketing men. I mean, it's the marketing men that lead, they know what the market wants. We come up with ideas and sketches and prototypes and things and present it to marketing, and they're the ones who decide which ones to go with. Luckily, they went with the Robo Skull. I didn't think I'd get that one through.
My friend Salvador, he says, no need to read this message aloud, but showing support and love for Tony and Mr. Bob. Your work is legendary.
Oh, thanks very much.
And Connor Fuller, who I believe is an Irish supporter of the channel. I hope I didn't get that wrong. No, it says Dublin there. He says, Bob, growing up in Dublin in the 1980s, I had a lot of Action Force. Thank you for the thousands of hours of fun you brought me. Forever grateful.
Right. That's very pleasing to hear. Lovely.
And we've got one more here from the audience, from Daniel Dorian. He says, question for the Palitoy legend himself. Why and how did you manage to alter some of the Kenner Star Wars products, such as the X-Wing and the Land Speeder? So I think he's asking sort of why the electronics were removed.
Well, it's cost, really. I mean, the American market's about, what, 10 times the UK market. So yeah. You have to... I mean, when they first came out, Star Wars, we had a price for the... I mean, if that's a Star Wars figure, say, that was 99p or whatever it was. But we didn't have any prices really for the vehicles that we could give to retailers until a bit later on. So we had to go through a process of getting it down to a price, that marketing could do. But yeah, I went with Roger Morrison, who was the tooling manager. I went to Kenner. As it was in November '77, we went over there together, and we saw the first Land Speeder and X-Wing coming off, and the guys at Kenner were putting them together, the mouldings, to make sure the mouldings fitted and so forth. So and then we came back and then Roger, he took out the electronics, and on the Land Speeder he took off the lifting bonnet. Hood, is it? In America?
Yeah. No, I call it a bonnet, Bob.
So he made it all one moulding, didn't he? That was another thing. Yeah, so it was cost, really. And that's why we didn't take their... I'm not too sure there whether we couldn't get... Sometimes we borrowed the tooling, but we made our own tooling for X-Wing and Land Speeder. We borrowed the tooling for the TIE Fighter. Yeah. And I'm not sure whether... We couldn't get the tooling for the Death Star playset that Kenner did, or whether it was too expensive for us. I think it's probably the latter. That's why we went for card. Okay.
And a question here from Jody, but on behalf of Plockman, because he couldn't make it to this live, but he wanted to ask you, would you have liked to see the Zargon faction in Action Force, perhaps as an allied force with Iron Blood? So
that's an interesting thought, isn't it? We could have scaled him down, couldn't we?
Yeah.
That was one of Greg's, come out of Greg's imagination, Captain Zargon.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me that over the years. Would I have liked to have seen Captain Zargon and the Zargonite pirates in Action Force? But...
Well, of course, they had the skull and crossbones, didn't they, as well?
Yes, they did.
Because they were space pirates, whereas Iron Blood was an Earth pilot, but more modern sort of fantasy.
Yeah. So that figure just there by your right hand, that looks like a desert rat.
It is a desert rat.
And
he's made of metal.
Oh wow.
Whoops, where are you?
Very nice.
He's lost it. That's one of the figures that went on the toy fair display in 1982. As did that one. And they all went on that first Action Force display, and if you look at this,
I'll just put you on the full screen again, Bob, and show that.
Yeah, that's the very first mock-up card for the blister card for the figures that Dave Barnacle did. Now, Dave Barnacle was he didn't work for Palitoy, but he worked for Palitoy, but he had his own company. He did a lot of the Action Man stuff, and when Action Force came out, he did all the Action Force packaging. So that's the very first original one that he mocked up, which I managed to save as well.
Yeah. Very nice. And this would have been what, 1981? Because the line came out in 82, so you would have been working on this in 81.
That would have been done in sort of the autumn of 81, probably.
Yep.
And then it was probably scanned and copied to make mock-ups for the toy fair, because the packaging may not have been ready. And then we blank out German Stormtrooper and put in, desert rat.
Yep. As a matter of fact, actually, here we go. This might be something else I got from you, Bob. That's
Oh, you did, yeah.
That's an actual example of the first issue card there with the SAS figure. That was very kindly gifted to me by my friend Bob Brechin. So thank you.
So yeah, you got a production one there and the prototype mock-up.
Yeah, they do look a little different, though. Oh yeah. So on the production version, it's actually photographs of the figures.
Yeah. These are just,
photographs of the prototypes, actually.
Well, they're prototypes on that, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see the figures are in a different order because the desert rat's down there at the bottom, whereas you got the pilot, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and the desert rats, he's up the top here, so
yeah,
slightly different.
Yeah.
But it was Dave Barnacle. Was it Dave Barnacle who designed the color scheme and the logo and everything as well?
Dave did all that. Yeah.
Yep. Very nice.
And that had been directed by marketing, because that wasn't part of the design function, the packaging. So Mike Taylor, I think it was Mike Taylor, he was in charge of Action Man and Action Force at the time. It was just before he left with all the others, in 81. So he had directed Dave to do that artwork.
Thank you, Jamie Roberts, for the super chat, but he didn't have a question there. But thank you. I think Jamie, I was just chatting to him before I started this stream. So, all right. So when we get to 1982, obviously we shrink Action Man down to the Star Wars scale, and we have vehicles, and we bring out a cardboard headquarters.
Yeah. The vehicles weren't designed; they were designed by Raffo and Pape, an external design company. That's the original drawing for the little Jeep.
Yep.
So they come up with ideas for I was concentrating on the figures, and so we got them in to come up with some schemes for vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's the Jeep, and I think, and
the multi-mission craft, yes.
Multi-mission craft, which became a good line when we changed over in 83.
Yep. Yeah,
a lot of people are taking that vehicle now and making all sorts of vehicles out of it.
They are, yes.
So
we've got Daniel Howes here got a question for you, Bob. He said, and thank you, Daniel, for the super chat. He says, what would have been the next innovation for Action Man? I think he's meaning if they kept going. So obviously we had the hair, the hands, eyes. Yeah.
So we had the hair, which Bill Pugh saw on Tomorrow's World on TV and said, that's a good idea. Put hair on Action Man. The gripping hands, which of course I sculpted. The eagle eyes that came from Hasbro.
Yep.
Then we had the sharpshooter position, which
yes, I forgot that one. Yep.
Yeah, push it over his Adam's apple.
Yep, so he could be in a sniper position.
Yeah, and of course that made a lot of the heads come off because it snapped. But we were working at the time I was working with an engineer in the department to do a grimace. G-R-I-M-A-C-E. A grimace,
Show us your war face, Paul.
So basically, it was another lever on the back of his neck.
Yep.
So you got the lever for moving the eyes, but another lever, as you moved it back and forward, he went, But we couldn't get the money to. We're working on it, but we're making mock-ups and things, but we couldn't get the money for it. Action Man was sort of on its way out then. This is sort of early 80s, you know. And it started because of Star Wars. We couldn't get the money to do any real development and tooling, so it died a death, that idea. And we had another idea as well, to make the talking Action Man, the talking commander, electronic.
Oh yeah.
Instead of having the voice box, you know, with the
pull
record
cord,
inside, is to, and we were working with we did. I think we did a bit of work with Texas Instruments on that. So we would have and what we were trying to do, and it was all pie in the sky because we're never going to do it because Action Man was on the way out. But we wanted to get the kid to record his own voice into it with commands and things, you know, and then sort of interact with Action Man, as it were. And that's when electronics was first coming in, you know, in toys. But late 70s, wasn't it? When we had Merlin. Do you remember Merlin?
I do remember Merlin. Yeah.
That was one of the first electronic games, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got electronics in Star Wars and stuff, and we were trying to put electronics into Action Man, but we couldn't get the money to really push it forward.
Yeah.
So that's what we were doing. If that answers the question.
I think so. Yeah. Sergeant Slaughter's Slaughterhouse.
I've seen Sergeant Slaughter.
No question, but thank you for the super chat. And two more questions here. One from Jody says, "Can we see some Tony's eagle eyes?" Still, he's joking with me, Bob, because sometimes I've actually sat here on YouTube talking about eagle eyes, and I just go like that, and then people chop that little bit of video footage and add it together. And Daniel says, do you think he could be reflocked? He's bought. Do you think we can electrostatically flock a human being?
we both need a bit of reflocking, Tony.
Well, I do. I've got like a little bit here, but a big patch missing there and stuff. And this question, this is from Joseph, who is Joseph's a very good friend of mine. He says, "Mr. Brechin, it's an honor, sir, and I'd like to extend a kung fu grip to the gripping hand in thanks for being such a huge part of making my G.I. Joe Adventure Team figure so awesome back in 1977. So he's heaping praise on you for giving the Adventure Team the gripping hand.
We always thought the Kung Fu grip was a funny name.
And with the hair, it was only in the UK. It was realistic hair, and there it was lifelike hair. Those two names are both perfectly acceptable. But Kung Fu grip.
But G.I. Joe, as you know, it ended up with alopecia. Because they chose the wrong resin. It was a rigid resin they used to hold the flock onto the head. And if you squeeze the head, the resin cracked and the hair fell off.
Is that what it is? Because through my almost 30 years of collecting, I know. I mean, you still get Action Man figures with hair missing, but you get a few like little patches. G.I. Joe Adventure Team are a lot more prevalent for having massive areas of hair missing. They used a different resin, did they?
It was a more rigid resin, yeah. That's when they were first doing it. Because when we did the hair, Bill Pugh called over Don Levine's guys, his engineers, to come over to see the process, and they went back and started their own process of doing it. But when they first did it, they used the wrong resin. But Nick Farmer who was the marketing manager of Action Man at the time. He was a bit worried when he heard about this. So he took an Action Man head and put it on the instead of the gear knob on the gear stick of his Mini, he put an Action Man head, and he drove around changing gear for miles and miles and miles to see if the hair would come off. and it didn't.
Yeah. That's an ingenious way to test it, isn't it?
It was.
Yeah. So when we get to, well, the toys came out in 1983, but for you it would have been
No, 82.
the work you did in pardon?
Action Force.
I'm talking about the second wave where we got to the team.
Second wave. Yeah, the second wave.
Yeah, so
these guys.
That's right. That's right. So they first came out in 83. So you would have been working on that line in 82.
Yeah.
So what was it like as a designer to all of a sudden be given, rather than just shrinking down Action Man, being given some creative license to introduce characters that went along with the backstory? Did that appeal to your sensibilities?
Well, I'm leading on from the story now about the marketing team and Bob Simpson, managing director, leaving the company in 81. Because I said Mike Taylor was in charge of Action Man and he set up Action Force as a marketing thing. We designed it like this, like mini Action Men. But then he left, and Bob Simpson left. Peter Waterman came in as managing director, and there was a guy called Andy Lowe came in as Action Man and Action Force marketing manager, replacing Mike Taylor. And it was he that came across and said, we want to take Action Force away from Action Man, turn it into a fantasy concept.
Yep.
Right. And so that's when we started sort of coming up with ideas of what this fantasy concept should be. So I think this was an earlier one. Actually, this was a concept before that. Can you see that?
I can, yep.
Now, that's based on Greg Hughes's special team styling of Action Man. Because when Mike Taylor said we wanted to do miniature Action Man, I thought at the time we'd need to change it from, we don't want to copy Action Man. Let's extend Greg Hughes's designs and call it the Assault Force, Action Man Assault Force. So I came up with different ideas of different uniforms. So this could have been the original Action Force instead of miniature Action Men. But then, as I said, the new team came in 80, at the end of 81, and they said, we want to take it away from Action Man. We don't want it to look like Action Man. Star Wars is the big thing. Fantasy was a big thing. Space and everything, storylines, as you said. It's got to have a story. Because Action Man never had a story. Kids made up their own stories.
Yeah.
So we were coming up with ideas, and I was going. I'm a bit of a science fiction freak. When I was younger, I used to read a lot of science fiction. I still do. This is what
freak or enthusiast.
This is one idea I came up with.
Wow, I've never seen that before, Bob.
No,
You're holding out on me here.
But you haven't, because this was an idea. I'll just read what it says on the front. Scenario for futuristic concept for 4-inch figures. Place, planet Earth. Time, listen to this, time, 2010 AD. It says the Earth has been ravaged by the deadly Jarmins from outer space, warlords from the planet Jar, laid waste to all the cities on Earth and made them uninhabitable, ruling the planet from a gigantic space city which hovers over the equator. The inhabitants of Earth are slaves to the Jarmins, but a resolute band of action men have maintained their freedom and are resisting the enemy from bases, and their outfits blend in with natural colours of the land, etc. So
yeah,
that was one of my ideas.
Wow.
sort of like Robin Hood in the forest, the Lincoln Green, and these guys come from the planet Jar, which is all purple and black and horrible.
Yeah.
So that was one idea, but I never. I don't know whether I actually showed it to them, but I come up with 1 or 2 ideas like that, and that's the only one I got from it. But of course, we sat down with marketing, and we came out with the idea of Baron Ironblood. and the Red Shadows as an evil group. Well, Baron Ironblood was like he was trying to take over the world. You know, a bit like James Bond, you know?
Yeah.
These characters are trying to take over the world in some way. So we came up with Baron Ironblood. And I think Greg had left by then. But I'm just looking for another drawing. Oh, it is. So I got Greg to draw up what Aaron Bart. We tried all sorts of things. We had him in capes and other things, and dressed in black, dressed in red, dressed in, you know. But that was
I've seen one photo where he's got like Darth Vader's cape on and his face is green.
Yeah. I've got a photograph somewhere of a figure with the cape on. I can't, but that's what Greg drew up, and I said to Greg, they're pirates, you know. He's got this band of misfits that he's sort of recruited from different parts of the world, outsiders basically, you know, that got a grudge and all that sort of stuff, you know. So that was his drawing, and of course, you remember what's his name in Australia?
Ned Kelly.
Ned Kelly, yeah, with the helmet.
Yep.
that was what's his name, wasn't it?
Pardon?
Was it Mick Jagger? Was it?
I think so. Yeah.
It was Mick Jagger, wasn't it? I think it was Mick Jagger. Yeah. So that's Baron Ironblood, and of course, we had to make the Red Shadows, and we had to use figures from the original mouldings, from the tools, because they wouldn't give us any money to really make new figures. So all these figures, we had to take the arms and legs and the bodies and the heads and sort of mix and match them around to make different characters.
Yep.
So we took the Stormtrooper and we just resculpted his head, basically. And moulded him
Red Shadow.
And he came a Red Shadow.
So, it worked, though. It worked.
Well,
just going to read a quick comment here from Nick. Thank you very much. He said, Bob, your work is still inspiring. Your work still inspires the next generation. Jax, my 7-year-old son, plays with your toys daily, and he's hoping to meet you at Action Man Con this month.
Oh yeah. It's the end of July, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's in.
I think so. I don't know.
it's the end of July in the old Palitoy factory.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully, once all this pandemic's over, I'll be able to travel back to England again. And
yeah, great.
Yeah.
That's Alan Dawson. He runs the Action Man Con.
Yeah.
Because I managed to get him the place in the factory, well, in the office block. There's a big conference room, and I found it eventually, and that's when we had the 50th anniversary in there.
Yes. Yeah. It's a good location, isn't it, for that convention?
Yeah. Plenty of parking and everything. If anybody wants to come, you know, plenty of parking. Good site. It's the hallowed ground of Action Man and any other Palitoy toys.
Yeah.
And of Action Force, of course, and Star Wars. So that's what we do. So that the German Stormtrooper became the Red Shadows with a different head. Some of these other guys, I mean, we had the SAS team, so the Frogman became Black SAS Frogman.
Also, I think his torso and arms were used for Baron Ironblood.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's got the legs of the German Stormtrooper and the torso and arms of the Frogman.
Yeah, well, you people know more about this than me because I forget all this sort of stuff. But I mixed and matched the bits around anyway. So, the SAS team. So marketing one of various teams of Action Force to counter the threat of Baron Ironblood and the Red Shadows. I mean, the classic one was the I haven't got a Muton, but the Muton, wasn't it? Because it was the indestructible death robots. So we were looking for a robot. What can we do for a robot? And I thought we'd take the deep sea diver, and he's got these holes, you know, either side. So we
Yeah.
stick things in, like antennae and bits and pieces, death rays and all that sort of stuff. So we turned him into the Muton. So and then what was there? There was the Q Force.
Yep.
And the Z Force, of course. The Z Force was the regular sort of army with the heavy equipment, the tanks and stuff.
Yeah.
And SAS were the covert ones to get in, amongst Baron Ironblood and his Red Shadows, and the Q Force were water and underwater, and then there was the Space Force.
Yeah, and Space Force.
All these figures, all the tooling for these figures was used to make the figures for the second wave, as it were, the Red Shadow wave.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been. This has flown by, Bob. We've been going for over 40 minutes already, and I know that a lot of people out there want to talk about the Robo Skull, or want to hear you talk about the Robo Skull. And actually, and something I've always wanted to ask. I've always been curious as to whether or not you still had a Robo Skull in your own personal collection.
I haven't got a production one.
You haven't got a production one, so
I never kept one, but I do.
So
this is the prototype.
So I never even knew that the prototype existed, and we were chatting just before the start, and I instantly recognized that the front face of that toy doesn't look like the production example.
No.
And you were telling me a story that you rescued it from a skip bin.
Well, the Robo Skull is part of the second year of the Red Shadows, isn't it?
Yeah, so it came out in '84.
I mean, the first year we were limited on tooling because they didn't have the money to give us. But because it became so successful, the Red Shadow, Baron Ironblood and the Red Shadows became successful, they gave us some money. So we started designing some new products.
Yeah.
So I designed the Robo Skull, and I've lost the original model because the original model was a bit smaller than this. And it was I sculpted it in wax, added some wings on and bits and pieces, and then this was the original pilot for the Robo Skull.
And wasn't he originally called Robo Skull?
He was originally called, I called him Robo Skull because I took the Robo Skull and this guy to the new products meeting with marketing and the managing director, sales director. That's they're the ones that sort of decide what's going on, So yeah. I took these two in and said, how about these for the Red Shadows? And I said, this is Robo Skull, and this is, I don't know what I call it actually, Skull Fighter or something. I don't know. They said, "Great, we've got to do that." And they said, He's not the Robo Skull. That's the Robo Skull. So that got called Robo Skull. And they said, "Oh, we'll do that. We'll do this guy as well, but we'll do him as a mail away. So we want you to go away and sculpt a new pilot for the Robo Skull." So here is the very first modelling I did for Red Wolf. So you can see
very nice.
You see it sculpted around another figure, an existing moulding. So I originally sculpted that just to get the idea of what he should look like. Now I've got a drawing as well.
So that's your original sort of concept design
that's my
drawing?
Original sculpting.
Yeah.
And
so when you would do those drawings, would you be the one who writes the backstory on there as well?
Well, I wrote a story on here of some sort. Because when the comic people got hold of this, they changed a lot of the stories we come up with. This is Baron Ironblood speaking, right?
Yeah.
"I found Red Wolf leading a pack of wolves deep in the forests of northern Sweden. He had, as a child, been reared by a pair of wolves after a pack killed his explorer parents." That's my take on Red Wolf. And a bit at the bottom is ruthless, cunning, and totally unpredictable. During the phase of the full moon, Red Wolf was partly humanized at Baron's HQ and trained to operate the terrible new flying machine, Robo Skull. His specially designed armored suit withstands the terrific G-forces involved when Robo Skull carries out its amazing maneuvers. So that was my take on Robo Skull. On
Red Wolf. Yeah.
And that's the original mock-up I did. And this is actually the final sculpting. And you can see holes in the legs where are we?
Yep.
All right. What happens is you put pins in there through there and to make an armature to sculpt on, and then you can take them out, and same in the arms. But and then you can see the pins now, look, because there's a resin version.
Oh yeah, yep.
So that's the resin version, which would have gone off to the tool maker to make the molds, the tooling molds for the body. And I think what you're telling me now, what do we use for arms and legs? Because I can't remember.
What do you mean? The material or?
No, because we used arms and legs from another figure, one of the existing figures.
Oh, for let me pull it out. So I think the legs are from the ground assault.
Is it?
Yeah, the legs are from the special team.
Yeah.
No, legs and arms are both from special team. I've got it. I've just pulled him out.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember now.
Oh yeah, so you've basically all the torso's new.
All that torso's new.
And the legs and arms are from the special team figures, either the Arctic assault or the ground assault. So
yeah, so this is the resin model that would have gone off to for tooling.
To make the tooling. Yeah.
They would have taken their own casts off to make beryllium copper moldings to go in the tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the inserts in the tool were made of beryllium copper. So they cast those. There's various processes they have to go through, but it eventually ends up as beryllium copper, and they go into a steel bolster in the injection molding tool, and then they injection mold the two halves of the body as a 2-impression tool, probably.
Yeah.
So that's what in Robo Skull. That's how it got. I was a bit sort of, when I went into that meeting, I thought they're never going to accept this.
And how long had you been working on it at that point when you went into that meeting? Roughly,
probably a month or something. I don't know. I did a lot of sketches of something with a skull on, a vehicle with a skull on. So there were land vehicles, flying vehicles, all sorts of different vehicles with some with tracks on, and then I eventually ended up deciding this was the one to do,
Yeah.
So what I did, I sculpted it up in clay, and got bits of plastic and mocked it up, sculpted up this guy, took it to the meeting, thinking, they're never going to accept this. It's two-way out.
Yeah. But as fate would have it, we ended up getting probably the most iconic toy to ever come out of Palitoy, I would say.
And I never,
that's what.
As I say, I saved this from everything was going in the skip, at the end of Toy Fair. So I saved all the figures. I got in quick and saved all the figures and saved this, but it got damaged. I don't know how it got damaged now. But the two cannons in the eyes broke off. That was broken off. You can see the little canopy that goes on the back.
Yep.
That's damaged, and because that's the molded version.
Yes, yeah.
That's the prototype version, which is damaged, and it's similarly with the canopy on the front. There's the molded version, and there's the prototype version, which is damaged.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was pleased to have been able to save that, because I mean, I can show you some of the drawings that led up to it. I mean, this was a drawing. If you can see this on the screen.
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, so that's a drawing I did when I was trying to work out how to get two figures in. And then I had this idea of putting another figure in, which was a captured Action Force figure underneath,
Yeah,
like a brainwashing department or something.
Yeah.
But you can see the top of it's quite different.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So that's an early drawing. And I've got another one here, which is it's a sort of exploded view to show how it operates inside and how the mouldings all fit together. And that's
so one of the first ideas was like to have the whole kind of top section of the skull removable.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know about removable, but it might have been hinged. I don't.
Yeah.
But it was going to be one piece like that instead of two little canopies.
Oh, I see. Yep.
But as I developed it, I found it easier to have it in two halves, like the prototype is, and then two little canopies.
Yeah.
So you can see how the development works. Have I got another one? There's a coloured, just a coloured sort of thing. I think that's when I finally decided on the where am I? On this version.
Yep.
Now, what happened then was that usually when you're designing a product like this, you'd make a prototype. You'd take castings off, probably to send to the tool maker and everything, and so forth. But we had to get it out. You know, the lead time in this is quite a few months to get it out into production, and they wanted it out quick. So I had to deal with a company who could work a prototype up and draw up component drawings for tool makers at the same time. So what I ended up doing was getting somebody to sculpt the face bit in clay, and then I got this company to take a resin of that, and then they started to build it up for my drawings. So they were making the prototype and drawing up components at the same time to get it.
Yeah.
They're working along in parallel, as it were, instead of doing this and then doing that and then doing that and then doing that. So they're going along in parallel to get it out.
That's quite amazing, because like the finished product is so beautiful. Like it does not look like something that Palitoy had in a way rushed.
Well, it was rushed, yeah. Well, it wasn't rushed. It wasn't rushed, but the system changed. Instead of doing this and doing this and doing this and doing this and going through the process, we're running along in parallel, making the prototype and drawing it up at the same time. So I was traveling to this company about every week, really. Yeah. Telling them how I wanted this bit designed. How I wanted that, this bit designed, and how I wanted this to do, and and they were sort of changing the drawings and sculpting it at the same time and making the prototype. So it was quite a task, and it was a bit of a worry, really, because I thought, this isn't going to work. I'm going to come out wrong at the end of all this.
Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite.
And then, of course, it goes on to I've got some drawings here, which are the tool. One of the tooling drawings of the components. The company was called RTD.
Rayleigh Technical Design.
Rayleigh Technical Design. So that's one of their blueprints. Can you see that?
Yes. Yep.
I can't remember which one it is now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's you can see here like a cross section, just here.
Yeah.
You know, and this bit here, that's where it joins together in the middle, I think.
Yep. So that's back in the day when everything was hand drawn, wasn't it? You didn't have computers and Photoshop and
So this is basically the assembly drawing. So each of those components, each of the components is drawn separately.
Yeah.
You know, for the tool maker to make the tool for that particular component. But this is the assembly drawing.
Yeah, to show how all those different components go together.
Yeah, and they're all listed here, look.
Yeah.
They're all listed there, all the different components that make up the Robo Skull. And then each component will be drawn up separately. And the tool maker would take that drawing and, you know, that's how it went. But as I say, the prototype and all this drawing work was going along in parallel.
Yeah. We've got a couple of questions here from the audience, Bob. So Sergeant Slaughter's back again. He says, Bob, mixing and matching parts to create new characters, the pioneer of what 80s kids would soon be doing themselves. I think he's talking about with us customizing later on in life. Thanks, Bob, for sharing these prototypes and images, and congrats, Tony, on the new reveal. And he's talking about some new action figure that's coming out. And there's a lot of comments in the chat here. I've got to scroll back up. We've got Kevin McCaffrey says, thank you, Bob and Tony, for bringing back so many amazing memories of playing with Action Force with my brother. Thank you for watching the interview. It's I've really been looking forward to sitting down with Bob. So I've known him for quite some time. Grace is always asking after you, Bob.
Oh yeah. Love Grace.
Yeah, and Zen's got a couple of weeks off football because school holidays. So, but he's got his next game is not next Friday. The Friday after is his next game. So,
is he getting up early in the morning?
I should get him. He's not very good in the mornings, Bob. He's a grumpy teenager. No, he's not great. He's not grumpy at all. Gojatron just wants to say, Mr. Brechin, thank you for sharing this excellent look at toy history with us. Amazing work. And Jeff Barker says it would be cool to have Bob and Bobby Valor compare notes on the design process from then to now.
Oh, completely different.
Completely different these days. When I mean, you see the I don't know if you've seen the images. You know, there's all this compute of the new figure he's putting me into the Action Force line. Yeah, computer renderings. It's not like the old-fashioned style hand drawing.
We used to have a massive, great big drawing board, you know, and desks around us with prototypes and models and things on. Now they just sit there with a couple of screens.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember when I was interviewing you for the Action Man documentary, you know, and you're talking to me about how revolutionary the invention of the fax machine was for you.
Yes.
And here we are in today's society. Like I'm just sitting at home in the far north of Western Australia, and I'm having a chat with you in England on video.
I know, because Bill Pugh, my boss, he was design director. He used to go to Hong Kong twice a year. He'd go in the spring to take new designs over, you know, and then go in the autumn to check up on how things are going, ready for production. So that fax machine came in really useful, you know. They'd fax over something, and I'd fax back, you know, change this. Whereas before the fax machine, you know, you had to describe it over the phone.
Now, I've been talking to some of my sort of close friends in the toy community, getting ready for this interview. So this question I'm going to ask you now is on behalf of a good friend of mine who is also an active serviceman in the United States. He's my friend. His name is Sal. and he has got a true fascination with the Kraken.
Go to your right.
Oh,
that's him. I got him.
Yep.
Kraken. I haven't got a Kraken here.
Was this? Oh, sorry, wrong one. I'll put myself on full screen there. Was this your original design?
Yes.
And any insights on kind of where the idea came from, or?
Well, this was the second year of Baron Ironblood when they gave us some money. And
so the same year that you're creating the Robo Skull, and Skeletron.
Yeah.
You had a hat trick that year, Bob. You had
yeah.
Skeletron, no, more than a hat trick actually.
Yeah.
Skeletron, Red Wolf, Robo Skull.
I did quite
Kraken.
well. Yeah, I did quite well really. Because there's the Triad.
I was going to talk about that in a moment. I wanted to talk about the Kraken first.
Let's talk about Kraken.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bit of feedback. Never mind. Kraken. There was a book by John Wyndham. Now science fiction again.
Yep.
Called what was it called? The Day of the Kraken, was it? The Day of the Kraken, and it was about extraterrestrials had come to Earth, or they were living under the sea.
Yeah.
Right, and they came out of the sea, and I thought, Kraken, that's a great name. Now the Kraken is a sort of mythical. Is it a Norse myth? Norse, is it?
Yeah, well, it's like the Clash of the Titans stuff. Release the Kraken, Clash of the Titans. Yeah.
But it's written that book.
So no, it's Greek mythology. Greek.
It came to mind. These creatures coming out of the sea, these aliens coming out of the sea, and that's what gave me the idea. And I drew up something and gave it to a sculptor and said, "Sculpt this for me, would you?"
Yeah.
And I haven't got a Kraken here. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I've got your back, Bob. I've got one here. So, yeah. So this is also a really big fan favorite figure. The bright green scaled skin really makes him stand out from the rest of the bunch, and a lot of people. Is it who's Matt Paul, the Kraken Wakes guy. He does a lot of the 3D printing stuff.
Oh, the Kraken Wakes. That's what it's called, the book.
Oh, is that? Oh,
that's the name of the book by John Wyndham.
The Kraken Wakes. Yeah, so that's the Action Force collector who's over on Instagram, who is just fascinated by the Kraken and takes all these photographs, and he does a lot of 3D printed stuff. And yeah, he's a great guy in the community. We've got another question here from the audience. This is from Gary Morgan, who's also known as Gary's Action Man channel on YouTube. Yeah, he's asking, Gary Morgan? I think you do. Yeah,
I've seen his YouTube stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Says, how were Palitoy's toys durability tested?
With kids.
So you actually did like play testing with kids?
To a certain extent, yeah. Action Man was play tested at the beginning, and it was also play tested by workers at the factory. Some certain workers were given Action Man to play with, and of course the comments were, "Boys playing with a doll."
Yeah. Well, now there's loads of grown men who play with dolls, Bob. It's all good.
Yeah, we didn't do much in the way of durability testing. We sort of trusted on our own expertise and luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
More luck, I think.
So we've talked about the Robo Skull and Ironblood and Skeletron and Kraken. So I've got one of my favorites down here.
Oh yeah.
The Triad Fighter.
Yeah, well, that's one of my ideas.
So you had quite the prolific year, didn't you, in 1983
Yeah,
between all of it? Because this
I
was all
made
the
up.
same year.
I made up for that time when others were doing it, like Ivor and Greg Hughes. You know, when they were doing
Yeah.
most of the hands-on stuff, and I was, you know, going in and out sort of thing. I mean, Greg Hughes stuff was brilliant. I mean, I always thought that we should have done that from the beginning, that sort of stuff. Never mind. But yeah, because Greg had left and Ivor, he had left. He unfortunately, Ivor left on one of the rounds of redundancy in the late 70s. Greg left, went on to other things, another career in design and sculpting and model making. And there was just myself and Brian, because Brian, the other one you like, I think, is the Sea Lion, isn't it?
I love the Sea Lion. Yes.
Well, that was Brian Turner's original idea.
Yeah.
We were the only two sort of designers left, and mine was the Triad, which there you go. There's a drawing of the Triad.
Yeah, it's very nice.
So the idea, I think the idea was, I was thinking all the time that you got figures and they need to be played with, and you need vehicles which take figures, you know, not just a figure. So that's why I came up with the Triad. That you could have your 3 figures playing in the Triad.
Well, it's not just having 3 figures being able to play with it. It's 3 vehicles in one.
Well, well, that's the other thing. Yeah, 3 vehicles.
You know, that's how my childlike brain worked back then. I remember, like, later on with the kind of Hasbro era of Action Force, there was a vehicle called the Havoc, which was kind of a very futuristic looking armored vehicle, which had opening panels at the back and a small, like, little one-seater hover jet that came out.
Yeah.
Because it was 2 vehicles in one, that's the vehicle I wanted in 1987.
Yeah.
It's the same with this. Like, a child like mine goes, I've got this one big, awesome looking spaceship.
Yeah.
But then also I've got 3 spaceships, all for the one toy. So
that was the other thinking as well, you know, to make it into three vehicles, and also to make it configure in different ways. So you could change that. You could change the vehicle by twisting the wing round. So you pull it.
So
you pull it out. I can't remember.
Spring loaded.
Oh, and it breaks.
No, it didn't break. Just the one of the canopies fell off.
You could turn that little craft round, can't you?
Oh yeah, that's right.
That
turns round.
So you can fly that way round, or you could fly like an S.
Yeah. So now
to your right. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, so you've got the pilot going forward, and he's got rear gunners now.
That was all my thinking. You know, this is what to do with it. Yeah. And then Kevin Heath, he was still with us. He was our model maker. I got the drawings. I drew it up for him and said, "Make that." You know, and so there's a bit of input from him in there, probably. You know, when he was modeling it, getting the size right and everything. You know. But the basic theme was what I was thinking,
So Jeff Barker's got a question here for you, Bob. He says, Bob, what were your design inspirations growing up as well as during your time at Palitoy?
My design inspirations, is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I stayed on at school and did A levels and did art and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And then I went to Industrial Design College in Birmingham. I didn't really think about toys. I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't have any toys. Well, hardly any toys. Couldn't afford them. Back in in the late 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
You're lucky to get a toy. I remember getting a bike. It must have cost my parents a lot of money, you know, because kids always have to have a bike, and I used to bike to school on it. I remember getting a cowboy outfit.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
like a Stetson and a sheriff's badge and holsters and guns.
Yep.
I think there were some, what they called chaps. They were on their
Yeah.
legs.
Yeah.
I remember getting that. That was. But toys, I used to go around my cousins because he had loads of toys. His family a lot richer than ours. So I had to play with his toys. But I had the odd toys, but can't remember being really a toy person. I was very sporty.
Yeah.
Because
You still are.
Well, I was football mad, wasn't I?
Yeah.
I mean, we had the 11 plus then, where you sat this freaking stupid exam, to see whether you could go to high school, to the grammar school. And I passed the 11 plus. I could have gone to the grammar school, but I went to the technical school because they played football. The grammar school played rugby. I don't want to play rugby. I want to play football. So that's me. And I wasn't really into toys. I used to live on the edge of Oxford. If you know the Northern Bypass in Oxford, it goes up to Headington.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the A40? We used to live right on the edge of the Northern Bypass. So behind us was countryside, going up to little villages called Elsfield and all these places. And we used to spend all our time in these hills, building camps, climbing trees, bows and arrows, So I suppose design inspiration, I could design a good bow and arrow, from trees like Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And we had this special tree, it was a willow tree, and it grew these long sort of shoots coming up, dead straight, and they made fabulous arrows. So
yeah, very nice.
That was my early days. Outside, playing football or in the hills.
So speaking of football, Bob, I know I run a toy channel, but and a lot of there are a lot of British viewers, but there is a huge proportion of American viewers who may not realise that excuse me, later on tonight, England are playing against Italy in the well, it was actually the 2020 European Cup, wasn't it? It got postponed due to the pandemic. Yeah. England have got all the way to the final. They've looked amazing all the way through the competition.
And they're not playing football for the Americans. They're playing soccer.
That's right. I still call it football. But it's one of the biggest England games that we've been watching for years.
Yeah, here we go.
You got your shirt ready? Yes.
I've got the English shirt on now for tonight.
Yep. Are you excited for the game?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Apprehensive, because Italy, I think, have been the best team throughout this tournament, even though Spain should have beaten them.
Yeah. Have you got a prediction that you want to share?
No.
I'm not much of a betting man, but I might have chucked 10 quid on a bet today. I'm saying England 2-1.
Are you? No,
yeah.
I think it'll be a win for Italy. What shall I go for? 2-0 to Italy.
2-0 to Italy. Okay.
I think they're a brilliant team, Italy.
Yeah.
We haven't really come up against a team yet that can really test us, I don't think. So it's going to be a real test for England to get through it. I hope they do, obviously, but.
Oh yeah, of course. Everyone hopes we do, but I mean, even Germany only really threatened them once in that game, didn't they?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Scuba Pete says he says thank you, Bob, and good luck, England. Thank you very much,
Scuba Pete. I think I know Scuba Pete on Facebook. I think.
Yes, yeah, he's been a long time supporter of the channel. He's been a scuba diver most of his life. Lives in America, and he cleans massive aquariums and fish tanks. And he's a huge Action Force fan. Became an Action Force fan after watching my channel. So Jim Largo, who is a big fan of the new Action Force line from Bobby Valor, says, Tony, thanks for sharing this interview. Mr. Brechin, which Action Man designs were your favorite to bring over to the Action Force figure line? So I think he means here in 1982, of all of those, which were your favorites?
To bring over?
I
don't know. I thought I like the SS guy. I think he was cool, and I like the Frogman.
Yes.
And I think this guy's nice. He's quite cute, you know. By the way, we sculpted him up to go on the toy fair.
Yeah.
With all his gear, with the radio backpack on. There you go.
Yeah, and very British as well. You know, that commando with the.
Yeah, that's right. He's a sort of an everyman, isn't he?
Yeah, but the British commandos had that very traditional looking knitted cap. You know, it was different to everyone else's, the way it was shaped and everything. So
so they were good. What else have I got down there? Here's quite a good one, but it was.
Oh yes, that was one of my favourites as a child.
Yeah, he came in. I think he was an addition to the first wave.
Yes.
We did a first wave.
There was like an all white one that came with the AF9 schemobile.
He's made of metal.
Bob. This is the figure that I see in the early trade catalogs.
Yeah.
That really looks like the Action Man mounting an Arctic figure.
That's where
the one we actually got in the final product came with the little schemobile, and he looked more like the special team guy with the special team head.
Yeah, he looked more like this guy, didn't he?
Yes, that's right. Wow. So you've got that original mountain and Arctic prototype.
Yeah.
My word.
Because you used to dress like that, didn't you?
I have once or twice. Yeah, I've been to Sweden. I've done some Arctic warfare training. Yeah. That was one of the highlights of my military career. Actually, that was one of the best trips I ever did with them.
Was it?
Yeah. I'm telling you, Bob, that we've got Action Force fans all over the world drooling over these prototypes at the moment.
There's that guy.
Oh, which? Oh, yes.
Did he get you? I can't remember if he got made. Actually.
Yes, he did, but I think the head was changed to the helicopter pilot head.
Was it?
Yeah. No, he was called the Night Assault.
Night Assault. You've seen how much decoration we put on these prototypes. All these little bits of colour, which we, Price meant taking a lot of these bits off.
Yep.
Because they're all tamper print operations. On the arm here. Little yellow bits.
I can, yeah.
They were decorated like that, but when we got to production, a lot of those bits came off. I think US Para, isn't it?
That's yes, it is. Yes.
He didn't come with the Stars and Stripes on, did he? In production?
No. The finished product didn't. He was kind of like a deluxe figure. Came on a big card because he had the parachute with him.
That's right.
No, he didn't actually have the Stars and Stripes on there. So.
Yeah. And this guy, he's metal.
Oh wow! The original metal Australian jungle fighter.
Yeah.
Oh, you're hoarding a few of these prototypes here, Bob. Oh, I don't blame you though. I'm actually very, very pleased to know that you still have the Robo Skull prototype.
Well, yeah.
It would have been such a shame if that had have ended up in the skip bin in the trash.
It would.
It's where it belongs, and I hope it stays with you for a very, very long time.
I think.
I've got a question here. Oh, I think it's a question from Sonny. He says, the mounted weapons on some AF vehicles like Shadow Track seem to resemble Bofors. I'm not sure what Bofors are, or the QF 2-pounder pom-pom. You know, the little red cannons that were interchangeable in a lot of the first Action Force wave.
Yeah.
So all the vehicles had them. He said, was this just a coincidence, or were these inspired by the 2-pounder pom-poms?
Right, let's have a look at the. I'll get the drawing out again. Oh, that's another one. That's another one that didn't make it. The Baffer and Peg drew up.
Oh, what's this?
It's a plastic. It's a
An
plastic
Action Man command base. Wow.
We couldn't afford to do the tooling for that, of course. So that's why I designed the card HQ for Action Force, similar to the Death Star, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, if we'd have had the money, we may have done something like this.
Bob, you've been helping me with my YouTube videos for about 5 years now, and every time I think you've shown me everything you've got in the archive, then you pull something out and you blow my mind again.
I keep digging them out, don't I?
Oh, you do?
There's some things that could have been for the underwater, not the underwater, the deep sea
diver.
Deep sea diver in the first wave. Just
wow.
Just odd bits, you know.
Yeah.
So
because you designed a lot of the accessory sets for the Underwater Explorer in Action Man, not the Deep Sea Diver.
Yeah,
the Underwater Explorer.
I did.
Wolfhound says, great respect to you both. I have a 12-inch figure given to me when I was in the army. Thank you. Thank you very much, Wolfhound.
It's a pleasure. Wolfhound. There's another one of the Robo Skull. Just a sort of schematic thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I was looking to say, the guns on the guns, wasn't it? On the AF7 or F9, was it? I can't put it. Somebody was asking about the guns, the cannons.
Yeah. That's right. On all those first wave vehicles, I think they all had it. Even the diving platform had it.
I've got it somewhere, and I can't find it.
I've got my friend Joseph here saying, Tony, there's more than enough information here for a new documentary. I've been talking to Bob about this. I really wanted to do a whole history of Palitoy documentary for the centenary. But I think by the time I kind of got the idea and it was going to be a big undertaking, it's not going to be achievable. But I've got a lot of future plans for videos for YouTube to try and keep the legacy of Palitoy alive, and long may it continue. I really want to do that kind of big epic full history of Palitoy. And I really want to actually start talking about some of the girls' toys as well. Because Palitoy was very well known for some classic girls' toys. So
they were. I mean, I'm working with the Colville Heritage Society at the moment.
Yeah.
We've just we got some money from the National Lottery, and this was for the centenary, like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
We put on a centenary exhibition in the old Palitoy factory, in that room where the Action Man convention is held.
Yeah.
That was in 2019, and of course then COVID came, didn't it?
Yeah.
So everything died off, and we just started to come back and start work on it again. And so what we're doing, we're recording histories. So we're interviewing people. We've interviewed Bob Simpson and recorded all his memories, because he's 98 now.
Yeah, wow.
We've recorded Roger Morrison. They're coming over here to record me on Tuesday.
Yep. Actually, Greg mentioned this in an email, and I think they're going to be chatting with him as well.
We've got Greg and Brian lined up to talk about toy fairs, and also Greg's work on Action Man and Brian's work on Action Force and so forth. And all this is going on a website eventually. It'll be the Colville Heritage Society website. So I'll let you know about that when it's up and running. Definitely. And we're making a documentary. We've done some work on that already. We've been to because Palitoy started in 1919 in Leicester. By Alfred Edward Pallet. So we've been down to the old factories they don't exist anymore, but we've been down to the sites and we've done little bits there. We're going to do some interviewing around the Palitoy site as it is now, because that is almost exactly the same as what it was when we left. It's hardly changed. And so that's all going together as a documentary. So that'll be on the website. And we're doing a film for kids. So it's like do you have that program? Who Do You Think You Are? Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Yep. Well, we're doing that based on Action Man. So looking back at Action Man, like how he was related to all the other toys, you know. It's for children. So that's going to go on. We're scanning lots of work and photographing things like the Robo Skull and this, that, and the other, and prototypes, and we've been scanning a lot of Roger's tooling drawings because Roger's been involved in helping on that. So it's called The Many Faces of Palitoy. Nice. So and I'll as soon as anything like that's on the website, Bob, I'll share it on YouTube and social media. So our website will also link into other websites. So if people are willing, we'll have Analog Toys link and I'd be honored if you did that. Link and and so on. So excellent. We'll all link up together. So the history of Palitoy will be there for because I've scanned all the catalogues, so all the catalogues will be on there. So all the products going back to all Palitoy products basically going back to 1950 will be on that website. Excellent. So that's a little thing for me, what's the word? As you get older, you forget words. It's a simple word. I can't think of it. Plug. Yeah. That's it's a plug from me for the Many Faces of Palitoy. Well, look, Bob, we're almost at time, and there's another Iconicon event on in half an hour, and I'm sure you want to get ready for the game later on tonight. But I want to very, very quickly, Huey, the young boy who's in that video, he's got one final question here. Tony and Bob, do you like the bigger scale of Action Man or the smaller scale of Action Force? Oh, Huey, you got me. I think they're equal. Yep. I think they're equal. I mean, I like Action Force because I was involved in a lot of the conceptual work of it. Yeah. Whereas Action Man is, it was Hasbro's original idea. So we were just building it up to make it into a British sort of concept. Yeah. Whereas, but I like Action Man because it was the first thing I worked on, and I did a lot of work on Action Man, and so they're about equal, I think. I couldn't take one or the other. Yeah, and I think they're. It's a great question, Huey. Yeah, it is. There are great things about both. Like for me, with Action Force, it's as a child with the price points, you could have a lot more vehicles in the range and the characters. But I also like the idea with an Action Man of being able to customize his outfit and all that kind of thing. So, but with Action Man, it revolved around Action Man, the figure, and he was like, for you guys when you were kids, it was like your little friend, wasn't it? He was my best friend. Whereas with Action Force, you don't have a particular friend in there, do you? No, you have like a favorite team. So you have a team, Yeah. So there's a difference there, isn't there? Yeah.
But look, Bob, it's been absolutely fantastic to sit down and have a chat with you again.
Well, I've enjoyed it. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Oh, do you know we've had like close to 200 people watching this live, and I'm sure by tomorrow this will have like 1,000 or 2,000 views on YouTube. So I'm glad you got the opportunity to do your plug with the Colville Heritage Society and all the amazing work you're doing to try and keep the history of Palitoy alive, but also a sincere thank you just from me for all the help you've given me with the YouTube channel over the years. You know, a lot of the videos I've been able to put out there about Palitoy's toy designs would not have been possible without you, and it gives me an upper hand over some of the competition on YouTube. So thank you very much, and I think it's really fitting as well that that we're sitting down here talking today. You know, 10 years to the month after we first met. When, you know, I had also written you an email when we first got in contact saying Action Man, Action Force inspired me to go into the army. And now today is the day I found out that I'm becoming a new Action Force figure. So,
well, I remember when I talk to people, I give little talks on the history of Palitoy.
Yeah.
And I talk about Action Man, obviously, because that's, you know, and I talk about you. I hope you don't mind, but I talk about you. And I say this guy, apparently he spent 3 or 4 days writing out this email to me because he didn't want to lose me.
I did. It was at least 2 or 3 days writing this email. One of the most important emails I ever wrote in my life. And I thought, I might never hear from this guy again, or he might think I'm a complete crackpot. And then after 3 days of writing an email, I got an email back in like 2 hours and went, "Oh, that's a brilliant idea. Let's make a documentary about Action Man together."
Well, I could see the merit in it. So, you know, because I haven't got the capability of doing it, or really the inclination, I suppose. But you know, I could see that. Well, you had a great love for the toy, and I thought, Kraken, he's the man who can make a good job of this. And
I still do, Bob. I still have a great love of the toy and all of them. So, well, look, we're a few minutes over time, and I don't want to take up any much more of your time. But thank you ever so much once again for taking time out of your day.